Good morning. It's time for the Wellness Wake Up with Rebecca. I'm here with my coffee. I hope you have your cozy, warm morning beverage as well. Today, we are talking a little bit about the difference between routines versus rhythms. So, a lot of what we've been thinking about this week has been to plan rhythms to help you to manage your day, right? And so when we talk about routines, those kinds of things are very connected to schedules. So we think about, bedtime, bath time, lunchtime. Every one of those words has the word time on the end, right? Because routines and schedules are very fixed concepts that are connected to time. So I think it's just really important for us, especially during this time period where we're kind of shifting from our, maybe our more rigorous work schedules to a slightly different way of being, and our kids as well, who are used to super busy activities. They are shifting from, it's time for soccer, it's time for hockey, it's time for whatever activity, it's time for school, and it's lunchtime at school, and all of those scheduled events that they're so used to. Good morning, I see people watching, it's nice to see you. So those kinds of events are all connected to time. So today we really want to get into this idea of how do we shift from time-focused schedules and routines to a more flexible way of being with rhythm. So I'm Rebecca. I am a new employee with Connections Resource Center, which helps to connect you to the resources and people in the Outaouais who can help you to be more informed with respect to wellness and health resources. So super initiative, and I'm proud to be part of it, and I'm proud to be connecting with this community. So if I'm able to share anything with you, know that I'm getting so much from you by having you in my house like this, and it's very healing for me. So let's talk a little bit about routines and schedules. How did we get to this place where our lives were dictated by routines and schedules? Well, it's actually a super recent concept in human life, and it began when trains were introduced. So the steam train began to, travel across country, and what would happen is, the train would arrive and nobody would be there to pick you up. Why? Because people didn't have clocks, right? They just lived. Well, it was super important for trains to begin to operate on a schedule, and that the routine of knowing when the train was going to come into the station would be made available. And that makes total sense. If a delivery was coming in to a station, people needed to be able to pick those things up, right? And they needed to know when to be there, because otherwise the train was just going to keep on going down the track. So, Nat, it's so nice of you to say that. So proud to have you on board, she says. It's really nice. I'm feeling really blessed to have this time with you guys. So, yeah, routines have great reasons, but they don't always work beautifully for children and families. And we'll explain a little bit about why in a second. But, we've become very disconnected from just sort of being able to live as part of a natural rhythm. So today I want to talk to you about 3 kinds of rhythms that you can start to implement in your home, pretty much like now. And the first is the seasonal rhythm. And farmers have forever lived by the rhythms of the season. The rural areas are dictated, their crops and everything they do is dictated by season. Trisha, hi! So nice to see you. So we're talking about rhythm versus routine. And seasonal rhythm really, if you think about the phrase, I woke at cock crow, right? I woke when the cock crew, and it was like the animals told you when it was time to wake up, when it was time to milk them, when it was time to, get out. The soil told you when it was time to get out in the field and what it needed to be able to grow and be beautiful. But we've become so disconnected from that, and that happened sort of during the industrial age, right, where everything was built around the clock and around production and getting as much out as we could as quickly as we could. I think it's really valuable for us as families to take a step back from the clock a little bit and to just take a moment to live with the rhythms of the world around us. Right now in seasons, we are seeing the beauty of the natural rhythm, right? If we can really make an effort to get back outside with our kids as much as possible and reconnect them to that world of the outdoors, I think we'll be able to not only give them the peace and contentment that comes from being in nature and the healing that comes from being in nature, but also we'll be able to get away from that feeling of needing to be somewhere and doing something all the time, right? So there's a lot that we can be learning from nature right now. It's springtime. We could be looking at the signs of spring with our kids. So how is the light different? I mean, we've been in the living room at 6:30 at night, and that just the way the light is coming into the room at that time is so different from what it was even a few weeks back. It's so much brighter, so much more warm. We're having to close the shutters actually because we're sitting there sweating in the heat of it, right? How is light changing? What are the insects doing? Lift up a rock. See, are they moving? Are they there? What's going on in the soil outside? How is the moon changing the sky? Are you seeing some more stars at night? All of those beautiful things. And the melting of the water, right? Maybe visit a stream nearby or even just a drain near your house and listen to the sound, sort of the manhole near your house, and listen to the sound of the melting and the flowing of the water. These things are super, super, super important for us. Go outside for a picnic at lunch. Bring out something to eat. Do this al fresco. Why not? Allison, so nice to see you. So yeah, all of these good things are sort of connecting our children to the seasonal rhythms, right? And then I'd like to talk a little bit about weekly rhythms. How can we just get to a place where we get to decide what it is that we want to do with our kids, right? A lot of people have reached out to me because they know that I'm a homeschooling parent and sort of said, what should I be doing with my children? What do I need to teach them, and how do I need to schedule their time so that they can learn? And my first response is, well, what do you want to do with them? What is it that you do with them only on weekends normally that brings you joy? And sometimes, too, what do you have to do with them? What are things that need to get done around your house that you can schedule over the course of the week that would bring some sense of order and calm to your space? So I had found about, I guess it was a couple of years back now, 3 years back, these beautiful rhythm cards. Now, you don't need this. You can create your own, draw your own kind of thing. But they're like different days of the week. So in our house we have baking day, and we have bushwalking day because we have a little forested area around the block that we can just go to and just check out. We have soup making day, and everybody participates in making the soup. We have crafting day, and on that day I make sure that we do some sort of a seasonally based craft. The weekend hits and we move to family day. We watch a movie together, we pop popcorn, we do board games. It's an awesome day. And then the day that everybody loves at my house, chore day. that Sunday, we just get the house ready for the week, and it just, because we're all doing it together, it feels like not so painful for mom and dad, right? Now, is my 5-year-old actually doing intensive chores and making the house sparkling and spotless? No, but it's the idea that we're all committed to that for the day. So what I would recommend, these are just ours, and these change over time too, right? So I recommend you make a list of the things that you want to do, that you love to do as a family. A big long list, right? And sit down together and write, what do we love doing as a family? What do you guys want to do more of that we haven't had time to do? And then narrow that down to 7 days for 7 days of the week. Come up with the day that is going to be associated with each of those activities and do it. And by doing that, you create a sense of predictability for the week. But you can be flexible in terms of the time that it happens at. Like sometimes, crafting day, we don't get around to the craft until like 3 p.m. or something like that. And that's totally, totally fine. So long as the kids know that when, baking day is up on the fridge, that at some point during that day we're going to bake something. And, my gosh, last week I put up baking day and I realized I had nothing to bake with. And then I remembered my grandmother's old tomato soup cake recipe, which sounds totally disgusting, but is a spice cake, which is, from the Depression era. People would grab a can of Campbell's tomato soup and put it in the cake and make cake. And so I had a can of soup, and that cake was gone within the hour. So that's weekly rhythm. And the last rhythm, by the way, if you have questions as you're watching, please type them. I do see your comments, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have about the rhythm versus routine. So we've talked about connecting our children and ourselves more to the seasonal rhythms. We've talked about establishing a weekly rhythm. But each day also has its own rhythm, right? Most days, the rhythm is insanely busy from sunrise to sunset. We are just go, go, go all the time. And those kinds of activities I call in-breath activities. Those are like the focused activities that require effort. And you might be surprised to find out what is an in-breath activity. When you think about it, take a big, deep breath in right now. Right? It is an effort, it is an intake, there is a focused kind of, okay, I'm getting, take a deep breath. It means I'm getting ready to do something, right? And so for our children, that big in-breath activity might be something like coloring in the lines, right? Requires focus and concentration. It might be studying a French lesson. It might be watching a TV show. Now, hold on here. Listen to me on this, I promise. The act of passive learning that TV provides is incredible, but it is a focused effort. A child's brain is actually working really, really fast when processing images on a screen, especially for those shows that are very fast-paced. So I remember realizing when my son was 3 that a lot of my stress through the day was the Paw Patrol song. Just Paw Patrol, be there on the double, Paw Patrol. And the heavy guitar, and I was like, oh my God. That was not like a relaxing moment for me or for my kid. I could see him jumping around on the couch, right? So just so you're aware, a television show is not a release activity. Television is very much a focus concentration. I have Allah saying hello, good morning. What do we see here? It says, as Muslims, we have Ramadan after a few weeks, so we will have change in meals time and more religious responsibilities. Ah, beautiful. Yes, exactly. So these are sort of the rhythms that we see, the celebrations and the festivals of the seasons that are connected to our faith systems and our beliefs. that are connected, of course, to the land and to nature and to all of those processes. Yes, right now, this weekend, we will be celebrating Easter in our house. And there's something beautiful about the predictability of those kinds of seasonal festivals that come to us that we can expect, that bring us together as people, even when we have to be socially distanced. So thank you so much for that comment, Ala. Okay, so yes, so we've talked a little bit about in-breath activities. So like my chore day has a lot of in-breath activities connected to it, right? Putting on loads of laundry, washing. But even reading a book is an in-breath activity because you're focused on intaking information. So what exactly is an out-breath activity? Okay, so you've breathed, you had a big breath in. I now invite you to take a slow breath out for 6 seconds. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? And realizing that out breath, it's this sense of natural release. So things for children that would be an out breath activity. Playing with cups and containers in a bath full of warm water. Playing dress up. Anything creative and imaginative. Building with blocks. Sketching in a nature journal outside. Watching an anthill. Playing in the sandbox. Playing make-believe with toys that are not too closed-ended. So, maybe dolls or a doll house or Legos. Blocks, as I say, are very, very out-breath, open-ended toys. As soon as you've got like a Disney character or a specific character associated with something, they are relying on memory of a show usually, and not the creativity of a brand new world that they're creating. Although children are amazing at how they can bring dinos into in with Barbies and all the rest of it and create a brand new game. So that's totally possible. So what I would recommend with respect to building a daily rhythm for yourself right now is to start by just stepping back, take your out breath, and grab a pencil and a piece of paper and watch your kids, and just sort of take note. Oh, okay, this is what they're doing right now. They're coloring, they are fighting, they are running outside, they are reading a book, they're watching a TV show, they're playing a video game there, right? Once you have that full list, I'd like you to divide it into 2 columns. The one would be what you consider to be an in-breath activity, a focused effort, or like taking in information, or an out-breath activity of creative imagination. And then you just want to create a staggering of those things, right? A balance. So every time you take a breath in, if you just go on to another activity after, you're going to breath in again, and then you go on to another activity and breath in again, and then you go on to another activity. And this is how we live the majority of our lives, and this is how children often function in a school's daily rhythm. So thank goodness for recess, right? Because that is the out-breath. Recess is the out-breath, right? The recess is the relaxing time of the day. So what I would recommend is if you can have a nice flow. So in-breath activity, you can read a book. Out-breath activity, go outside and play. In-breath activity, come inside for your lesson in French. Out-breath activity, go play dress up. In-breath activity, we're going to eat dinner. Out-breath activity, have a warm bath, right? So the more you can set that up, the more you create a natural rhythm for the day. Now I'm taking my out-breath now. I think that's all I wanted to share with you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I hope this has been helpful. Remember the 3 rhythms. Start by picking one of those that you want to work on. I strongly recommend. It is a gorgeous day outside. Start with your seasonal rhythms. Go outside and see how nature is living. Nat asks, how long would your in-breath and or out-breath last in your day? That's a great question. So it depends on the activity. So baking, I consider to be an in-breath activity because there's certain measurements that you have to follow, certain activities that you have to follow, and steps to it. So baking takes, not about 20 to 30 minutes. Joanne, nice to see you. Baking would take about 20 to 30 minutes, and that requires kids to measure, right? You're doing math with this activity. So you've got to measure, you've got to mix, you've got to stir, you've got to bake, you've got to watch the time on the clock. So that's a very focused activity. That might take, always cooking and baking takes longer with kids. Which is why most of us are like, go away, I'm cooking, I'm baking. But I've been really trying as much as possible to bring the kids into that activity. So it will last, maybe 20 or 30 minutes, let's say, and then you send them outside and say, okay. Usually the nice thing about that is if you watch your kids, they kind of know when they're ready now. Okay, we've been playing outside for a while. Now we want to come in and we want to watch a show, or we want to read a book, or we want to do something more focused. We want to eat, which is an in-breath activity, right? We want to eat. I want an apple. So when your kid asks for a snack, it's sort of a sign sometimes that they're ready for focused concentration activity, actually. So you might decide, okay, you can have an apple while you color in this coloring book. And that's an in-breath activity, right? Coloring in the lines of a pre-defined image. Versus if a kid decides to just sort of free draw, that's an out-breath, right? Because it requires all of that energy. So those are my 3 recommendations. I really, really hope you sort of grab hold of one of them, either feeling the seasonal rhythms in your neighborhood, watching the squirrels and seeing what they're doing differently from what they were doing even a month ago, building a weekly rhythm, deciding what you want to be doing. You're home right now, presumably. You have the time to really think about what are the things we love as a family and do those things and do them regularly so you create a sense of predictability. And last, the daily rhythm and instituting that for yourself too, right? If you have been working, make sure you take time to just and as I say, TV is not that time, right? So work on a craft, do some handiwork, whatever you have to do. Hi, Sarah. Nice to see you. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you got something from it. And we will have this afternoon, we have a special guest presentation. So please come back at 2 p.m. to reconnect with us again. Take care.